Hi, everyone, and welcome to Point of Purchase by geekspeak Commerce. On this show, we gather with experts in the e-commerce ecosystem to talk about all things retail, technology, business strategy, and more. My name is Katie Robert. I'm a client success manager at geekspeak Commerce, and I'll be your host for today's episode. This episode of Point of Purchase is the second in our new spin-off series called Canadian Commerce, presented in partnership with our friends at BrandSpark International. In case you missed it, we've launched this spin-off series as a way to share quality data and insights about what's happening in e-commerce in Canada. Because we work so closely with brands, distributors, and retailers, we know that accessing this data can be a challenge, and that's where BrandSpark comes in. By leveraging data from their e-commerce shopper study, which focuses specifically on Canada, we're able to pair our 20 years of digital experience with their consumer research expertise to share meaningful data points and insights. So for today's episode, Unmasking Shopper Insights in the Online Beauty Industry, I'd like to invite Val Feo, Associate Vice President at BrandSpark, to join me. Hi, Val. Welcome.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So before Val and I dig into the content of today's show, I'd like to take a moment to let our audience know that they can ask any questions as we chat here. Just drop them in the comments wherever you're watching, and we'll pick them up near the end of the show. So without any further delay, let's dive in. Val, can you take us through a bit of your background and your role at BrandSpark?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an associate vice president on our senior leadership team here at BrandSpark. I've been at BrandSpark for nearly a decade. During my time here, my role has really revolved around supporting several of our key clients in helping them make data-driven business decisions. So my experience primarily lies in designing and executing a variety of custom quantitative and qualitative studies. And then within that, much of my work has revolved around omni-channel path to purchase research, usually focused on, understanding how consumers are shopping across various channels, and the impact that has both on retail and product strategies. And then in terms of BrandSpark overall, we really focus on providing consumer insight solutions tailored to strengthening brands. And we do that by way of really understanding our clients in the industries that they're in. Like, we always really like to dive into whatever business space our clients are in. Mm-hmm. And we focus on delivering strategic recommendations within the space of brand health management, new product launch, and the optimization of communications.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Val. Sounds like you're the perfect person for the job today.
I hope so.
So before we dive into the data, can you remind us a bit about the BrandSpark e-commerce shopper study and tell us a bit about what it entails?
Yeah, sure. So the BrandSpark e-commerce shopper study is conducted annually in June, and it's done among a nationally representative Canadian sample. This year, we actually had a sample of over 7,000 Canadians. We began the study in 2016 as e-commerce really started to take off. And it was really expanding across a wide range of categories in Canada. Mm-hmm. And we really wanted to understand the space in order to support our research clients. And so over the past 7 years, the study has tracked attitudes to online shopping and specific shopping behaviors across key categories. That includes online grocery, consumer packaged goods, several different durable goods categories, and then, of course, cosmetics and skincare, which is what we'll be talking about today.
Awesome. That's great, Val. Thanks for that overview. I mean, I know that on our side, working with clients within e-commerce, we see the challenges that they face trying to access good quality quantitative data that they can use to make decisions about their online businesses. So really looking forward to digging into this category specifically with you today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love it. I love sharing stuff with people. I love it when people can find value in these insights because it's just so much better to make decisions based on actual information and not always just relying on that gut. Because sometimes we get it wrong, sometimes we don't really know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, well, let's set the stage by talking about online growth in the cosmetics and skincare category. What does the e-commerce shopper study tell us about this category, and what have we seen over the last year or so?
So our ecom shopper study shows that there's been a significant increase in online cosmetics and skincare purchases since 2022. 36% of our shoppers told us that they purchased cosmetics or skincare online this year, and that's up by 9% since last year, which is pretty significant.
For sure.
To top that off, among those who do buy online, 39% buy more than half of their share of these items online. So really that breaks down to the fact that 39% of those shopping the category online are buying at least 50% of their cosmetics and skincare in the online space. And then this is relatively high compared to the other categories evaluated. So for context, there's only 3 other categories that either match this share of online purchases or have a higher share of online purchases. So it's a big chunk of purchases within this space that are attributed to the online channel.
Got it. Yeah. So, I mean, those are, like you said, some fairly major changes that we're seeing in that category. A 9% jump in a year is pretty big. And
Yeah.
I mean, I would think historically that this would be a challenging category to move the needle on, because other than repurchasing your go-to products, I think a lot of the drive of shopping in store for cosmetics specifically is being able to actually see and even sample the product, right?
Totally.
But I'm assuming that this is something that we'll continue to see grow over the next few years, especially as we see advancements in augmented reality, which this category is a really good fit for.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, I think there's so much at play in this space. And I think there's been so much movement in the online space, even across like just anecdotally across social. You see a lot of different like tools, like skin matching tools online now that didn't exist before. So we did see actually quite, not even just in general growth, but there was quite a few jumps that we saw in our study within this space that we will sort of get through, I think, through our discussion today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that this category has always been something that has been, very advanced in terms of people, trying out the latest kind of technologies and trying to, push the boundaries for sure. So I know that for some categories, we see consumer shopping habits are pretty aligned across both online and then in-store shopping. And then for others, we see that those habits can vary pretty widely between the two. Do shoppers make purchases in this category differently online than how they shop in store?
So from this study, we know that half of cosmetics and skincare shoppers are buying the exact same brands online and in store. And then the other half are buying either completely different brands or a mix. And those who buy different brands online primarily point to brand availability and new product discovery as the reasons why. So 32% say the brands that they buy online are not available locally or hard to find in store. Then you have 28% that say that they discover new products online and want to try them. And then 22% actually say the brands that they buy online are only available online, which is an interesting sort of dynamic at play as well. I think it's also notable here. So if you look at this slide, we have sort of the cosmetics and skincare category versus sort of total of all the categories that we evaluate within the e-commerce study. And you'll see there's one little spot where like the gray line is much longer than the blue. That's where we see that different online pricing is a top reason to buy different brands online in other categories, but it's less of a factor in this one, which is just an interesting sort of difference between this versus some of the other categories we look at. The other thing I want to mention is that one of the main reasons why shoppers shop this category online at all is because they think it's easier than buying at the store. And so when we look at this data and a few of the other insights that we'll get into, it really points to a couple of key mindsets that are at play here among the people shopping the category online. We for sure have a group of people here that know what they're looking for. They find shopping the category online to be convenient. That's sort of their reason for being here. They're likely sort of in that in and out mindset. I know what I want. I'm going to get it. I'm going to move on. And that's sort of the benefit for them. But then we also have another group here that's really more open to exploration and discovery. And I mention this because each of these types of shoppers and mindsets require a different kind of strategy. And so it's important that we keep in mind that brands in the space really need to be attuned to what each of those types of shoppers need.
That's great. Thanks for that visual, Val. That's really helpful. I know that we definitely see on the GeekSpeak side how crucial it is for brands to be attuned, like you said, to these different types of shoppers and their needs. And we also see the results every day on how, hitting the mark on those strategies ultimately really does affect things like traffic and conversion.
For sure. For sure. I mean, if your drivers are different, then you're looking for different things. You need,
Mhm.
that flow. The flow of shopping online is just so important to making that conversion. And so depending on what state of mind people are in, you're going to want to look at that a little bit differently.
Definitely. So before I get into our next question, I just want to take a quick pause to remind everyone that you're currently tuned into Point of Purchase, Canadian Commerce, Unmasking Shopper Insights in the Online Beauty Industry, presented in partnership with geekspeak Commerce and BrandSpark International. If you have any questions for myself or Val, please feel free to drop them in the comments at any point. So back to my questions, Val.
Yeah.
The e-commerce shopper study shows us that Amazon continues to dominate in almost all categories except for cosmetics and skincare, though it's definitely growing. What do you think contributes to that, and who are the other major players for this category?
So you're right that Amazon doesn't currently dominate in this category the way that they do in others. But I have to say, based on our findings in the e-commerce
Mhm.
shopper study this year, the days of Amazon not dominating in the cosmetics and skincare space might be coming to an end.
Right.
That's a pretty big deal. So
Yeah.
when we fielded the study, 30% of shoppers made their last purchase in this category on Amazon. Not
Okay.
only is that a 12% increase relative to last year, so again,
Mhm.
pretty significant jump, it's also equal to the proportion of people who had last purchased at Sephora, who we obviously know is the beauty giant.
Mhm.
Um, Furthermore, we actually know from some of our previous trust research that Sephora has been by far the most trusted brand in this category. And it was actually at the time that we sort of dove into our trust research a couple of years ago, it
Okay.
was the only brand to actually really stand a chance against Amazon. And
Mhm.
so now it seems that Amazon is catching up. And so it's a pretty fascinating to see that happen. Um, and I mean, there's a few things at play. I think Amazon has been pushing across their categories for so long, and it really has. We've sort of seen it over the course of our years of research. They sort of like slowly,
Yeah.
one by one, tackled every category.
Yeah,
And it just
definitely.
seems like this is in their wheelhouse. It's so convenient to shop on Amazon. And they obviously have some other strategies at play here that are working for them in the category.
Right.
Um, in terms of the other players, there's also some other interesting sort of dynamics within the category. It's a
Okay.
category where we see a lot of fragmentation once we get past Sephora and Amazon. So in a lot of our other
Okay.
categories, there's like, a few really big players and not a lot of fragmentation after the fact. Whereas
Right.
here we have two big players and then a ton of fragmentation. So to give you sort of context here, Shoppers Drug Mart, for example, captured
Yep.
only 6% of the last online purchase occasion in cosmetics and skincare. Obviously, I'm sure there was like this sort of distribution looks very different in store, but in the online
Yeah.
space, this is what we're seeing.
Okay.
Walmart only captured 4%. And then we see a higher tendency than in other categories to buy direct from the manufacturer. So when you see nearly 3 times more direct to manufacturer purchases
Yeah.
in cosmetics and skincare than we do in the other categories that we've evaluated. So that makes this category really unique, and it really
Mhm.
highlights, again, sort of that need to understand those shopper segments, because there are different segments in this space and there
Yeah.
are sort of distinct mindsets, since there really is so many avenues that they can and do take, seeing that there are purchases happening across so many different websites outside of sort of the two big ones.
Right. Right. I mean, this is a really interesting comparison, specifically when we're talking about Sephora and Amazon, because I think Sephora has been hugely dominant in this space for so long, and they
Mhm.
really do an exceptional job with their e-com site.
Yeah.
And they also compete with Amazon on some crucial pieces like shipping speed.
Yeah.
And then they have some really interesting features like the ability to chat live with a beauty expert, which is
Mhm.
really valuable in this category. If you imagine the kind of service that you typically receive in store at Sephora and how that kind of affects your purchasing. And then we also see Sephora experimenting with augmented reality features in other markets, not in Canada yet, but to allow people to virtually try on makeup, which, of course, like I said before, is a perfect fit for this industry. So it'll
Mhm.
be really interesting to see what Amazon comes up with in the next year or two to keep competing with Sephora and
Right.
to see how those efforts will affect consumer shopping habits. I also think it'll be interesting to see how Sephora responds as well and how they'll fight to keep their market share as well in ecom.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a fascinating thing because they really are head to head right now. So you're
Hmm.
right, it could go. I mean, Amazon has been so successful in dominating in every other category, and so
Right.
this category is so fascinating because it's like how Sephora has done such a great job. Like they do so many good things. Their loyalty program is
Hmm.
just like phenomenal. So it's interesting. It's like right now they're looking a little bit more equal in this space, and so it'll be definitely interesting to see how they each sort of make an attempt to win the category.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see some major shifts in the next couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like and kind of which way things swing.
Mhm. Mhm, definitely.
So moving on, how are shoppers searching for cosmetics and skincare online? So where are they looking and what sort of search terms are they using?
So this is a great question. Again, it really highlights the importance of brand in the category, and I'll tell you why. So we have 69% of cosmetics and skincare shoppers searching for specific brand names, meaning
Okay.
they're literally typing a specific brand name in their search bar.
Yeah.
That's massive. That's
Yeah.
a lot. That's a very large percentage.
Yeah.
And that behavior went up by 18% since last year,
Okay.
another really significant jump. And it's the highest in this category compared to all of the others we studied. And it's clear that the strength of your brand is obviously super important in this category,
Right.
where that behavior of seeking out a particular brand from the get-go is so significant. Um, I also think that part of this might actually be with some of that Amazon growth that we're seeing, because again, it's not like you go to Amazon and like cosmetics and skincare is like right on the front page,
Yeah.
sort of like super easy for you to navigate in a different way. Amazon is a very like search heavy
Yes.
platform. And so that might be sort of at play here as well in terms of this behavior shifting so much. Um,
Right.
some of the other interesting behaviors we're seeing here is that 61% went directly to the retailer website. So again, there's this
Okay.
element of, I know where I'm going. And 39% reorder products from their past purchase history.
Hmm.
Um, so again, it's very clear that for the most part, there's a large segment of this shopper base that know what they're looking for in the category. And
Yeah.
again, referencing back to that sort of mindset I was talking about earlier, this like
Hmm.
in and out mindset. Like I know what I want, I
Hmm.
know what I'm going to get. I'm going to go straight to it. I'm going to, um, take advantage of the convenience of being able to do it so quickly here. Um, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that there isn't room for exposure or exploration.
Hmm.
And again, like to your point, we have all these new sort of augmented reality type things. We have all these other new tools that make shopping this category online really fun. And so, yes, we have a lot of people that are going straight to what they want and they know what they want and they're doing it quickly.
Hmm.
Uh, but there is another sort of more open to explore mindset at play here. And especially as the holidays are approaching, we're seeing a lot more browsing activities and browsing opportunities.
Right. Right. So let's keep going on that. Speaking of holiday shopping, since we're really just pressing into the holiday season now,
Yeah.
what can you tell us about holiday shopping in this category? Maybe you can speak a little bit about the power of gift cards and gift sets during this time of year.
Yeah, for sure. So, we recently ran a short sort of pulse survey among our
Okay.
shopper army community. We actually started doing these pulse surveys back during the pandemic because we quite literally wanted to keep a pulse on everything that was going on, and
Yeah.
it was unprecedented times, and so we
Right.
had a lot of these going out. We don't do them as often now, but every
Okay.
once in a while, it's a great way to get a quick sort of read on what's happening.
Got it.
Um, and we did it specifically to gain some insights on holiday shopping within this category, to be able to share these insights with you guys and with everyone who's watching right now. So um, I will primarily focus on what we learned from the women shopping in this category
Okay.
because it's no surprise we make up the bulk of the cosmetics and skincare
Right.
shoppers.
Right.
But there's a few things we're seeing. So first, more than half of women shoppers in the category have already started shopping for the holiday season.
Okay.
So shopping specifically cosmetics and skincare for the holidays, but 86% still plan to make cosmetics or skincare purchases over the
Okay.
holiday season. So still lots happening in this space,
Mhm.
sort of looking forward into this season. In terms of who they're shopping for, we have 77% of women planning to shop the category for themselves. I personally love that stat.
Yes.
I am one of the 77%. I have shopped for myself within this space already. And then 68% plan to shop for female family members, and 40% plan to shop for male family members. So it really seems like shoppers like to keep purchases within this category, like as gifting for the holidays, sort of closer to home
Mhm.
versus buying for people who might be outside of their family or who they might not have as close a relationship with. And that, very naturally lines up with what they say they're likely to buy. So we have
Okay.
57% who said they were likely to buy either gift sets or individual items that they know the recipient likes.
Okay.
And that's followed by 45% who said they'd likely buy gift sets of items they think the recipient might like. Those kinds of shopping behaviors really require you to really know who you're buying for,
Right.
right? You
Yeah.
need to know what they like. You need to know, especially in a space that can be so personal. Um, and so that makes sense with a tendency to shop for yourself or your family. And already you can see that gift sets are, a pretty significant piece in this category. And then we also saw that 29% said they planned to buy gift cards. This was
Okay.
lower compared to the men that we did speak to that I'm not necessarily referring to right now, but
Yeah.
it's
That
it's
makes
interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
they definitely were a little bit more inclined on the gift card piece,
Mhm.
which points again to some interesting exploration opportunities we see
Right.
within space during this season.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, those stats don't surprise me necessarily because I think we're in agreement. I mean, I consider cosmetics and skincare products to be a pretty personal choice, but at
Mhm.
the same time, they do make a great gift because it's something that you're constantly using up and running out of. And sometimes also, depending on the product, it can be a bit of a luxury item as well.
Yeah.
So I think that it makes sense that people are buying within this category for people that they're close with.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, there's a lot of the brands do, I think, a really good job of making these items feel sort of exciting, like
Mhm.
especially some of these gift sets. We're also seeing now a ton of like advent calendars in this space, which is so fun
Right.
and so cool.
Yes.
Like you think back to the excitement of getting an advent calendar as a child, with like your little chocolates or whatever.
Yeah.
And now, like an advent calendar of beauty products, sign
Yeah.
me up. Like that sounds awesome. And that's such a great gift. So yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement in this space, but even while still being personal, I think there's definitely
Mhm.
ways um that where it's still something that like you don't need to be 100% sure
Mhm.
of what that person is wanting or liking.
Mhm.
But you do still really like you need to know them. You can't like,
Yeah.
you can always also offend people if you get them wrong in this space too. So It's a fine line to walk, we'll say.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. I mean, going back to the advent calendar, that's such a great product too for brands because it exposes people to so many new products that they might not
Yeah.
necessarily otherwise have exposure to. So,
Yeah.
definitely some opportunity there.
And that I think that's the strength behind the gift set string, like in this space during the holiday season, because
Right.
again, people know what they want a lot of the time. And
Hmm.
so this sort of, while exploration is fun, there isn't always a lot of uh, like opportunity. People aren't always open to switching up their products.
Yeah.
And so when you can make it fun to try something new, you have
Hmm.
much better chance of capturing someone's attention, um, and really like getting into the space a little bit more.
Right, right. Can you speak a bit more about what other kinds of activities or behaviors we're seeing in this category during the holidays?
Hmm. So, I mean, unsurprisingly, shoppers are definitely looking for a deal.
Right.
And I think, again, back to the gift sets and value sets.
Yeah.
Uh, this is also another way that people you really feel like they're getting good value.
Right.
So we see oftentimes you're getting like a multitude of products. It's usually described as literally more bang for your buck. Like you're
Hmm.
getting X value for X amount less dollars,
Right.
and people love that. And so we are seeing, in addition to the fact that people are, planning to buy gift sets, we have 70% of women shopping in the category saying they have or will look for value sets or gift sets. So they're
Okay.
at very high proportion are looking at these specific, offerings.
Yeah.
And then not too far behind, 68% say they plan to shop during specific sale periods.
Okay.
So like Black Friday or the Sephora savings event that just passed.
Hmm.
And then we're also seeing a lot of opportunities for exposure through other browsing behaviors. So 54% say they will look for gifts by price categories. So, usually you can find somewhere on the site that'll say, gifts under $25, gifts under
Right.
50, gifts under 100.
Hmm.
Which can be really helpful for people when they're trying to stay on budget.
Yeah.
And then 39% say they'll browse retailer gift guides, which is pretty good
Okay.
too. And 30% say they'll browse gift guides from other online sources,
Okay.
like magazine publishers, for example.
Right. Right.
The social influences seem to be a little bit less substantial, though about a quarter say they'll look to influencers for gift ideas or inspiration. And
Okay.
then 19% say they'll check what's trending on social, like TikTok beauty trends, which, you're always seeing some
Hmm.
kind of viral
Yes.
thing happening. um, and then in terms of spend, we have 71% who plan to spend either the same amount or more on skincare or
Okay.
gifts specifically. So gifts for other people specifically
Hmm.
this holiday season, versus last year. And then we have a 29% that are saying that they plan to spend less.
Okay. There's actually some great call outs in those stats and in this slide on how retailers can prep for the holidays. For example, you mentioned,
Mhm.
those price brackets. So adding new filters or categories that allow people to search for gifts in different price brackets. If that's not something that you're already doing, it's a great addition to your site before the holidays.
Yeah.
So if we're thinking more about that and based on everything that we've learned, what are some last minute changes retailers or brands can make to their e-com stores in order to make the most of the holiday cosmetics and skincare rush?
So, related to that, it's so important to make sure you have exposure in at least some of these browsing opportunities.
Right.
Showing up in gift guides under
Hmm.
various browsing filters, like by that price category, etc. These are all ways that will help brands take advantage of this period where browsing behaviors are heightened and you have more of an opportunity to catch someone's eye, versus during the time period where they're like just getting what they know they're going to get and jumping out. Um, and then keep in mind that looking at gift sets is as planned for as shopping during a sales event like Black Friday. Like
Okay.
people are planning to look at gift sets
Yeah.
the same amount as they're planning to shop during something like a huge event like Black Friday.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. That's significant.
Right.
So giving your gift set focused promotions the same amount of attention and care is not unheard of. It's probably a
Mhm.
good idea. But I'm actually curious to hear from you, Katie, because you guys have so much expertise in helping, people get their e-commerce offerings up to speed. Like, what are some of the things that you think, retailers or brands could do to make the most of this period?
Yeah, so a few thoughts on that. So I think to start with, it's a good time to kind of go back to basics a bit and just make sure that your product and category pages look clean and organized and that they're as complete and optimized as possible. And
Mhm.
then beyond that, kind of holiday specific, making sure that your site is search engine optimized for seasonal keywords. And then at the same time, check that you're up to date on general category based keywords as well, because things are always changing. Um, I think also brands should, if they can, do a mobile ready audit because you want to make sure that your mobile site is running really well because we know that a lot of people will be doing their holiday shopping on their phones this year. That's something that continues to grow year over year.
Yeah. Yeah, we see that on our end too, actually. The use of mobile and shopping just
Right.
continues to go up.
Yeah, every year, right? We're seeing it more and
Mhm.
more.
Yeah.
Something else to consider that comes to mind would be implementing convenience payment options like buy now, pay later, which we also know based on recent stats, it's set to have its biggest holiday season yet. So it'll be really interesting to see what that looks like
Yeah.
after this coming season. And then making sure that your business is ready to handle an influx of orders by stepping up your customer service and making sure that your inventory and logistic processes are in really good shape so that you're really ready to go for the holidays.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because in terms of like the checkout process, it's something that a lot
Hmm.
of I think is so easy to forget, and it makes
Yeah,
such a difference. That's one of the things where Amazon has excelled,
right.
so much. It is so easy to just buy something on Amazon.
Yeah,
Like, everything is just ready to go. You can
yeah,
literally be like, buy now, swipe,
yeah,
done. And that level of convenience really makes that conversion a lot easier. And so it's definitely a piece I think that we should never forget,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
especially during a season where, people are doing a lot of their holiday shopping online.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We actually just released a holiday playbook, just all surrounding, different tactics that brands or companies can make sure that they're ready. So definitely, if you're interested in that, check it out on our LinkedIn. We have it posted there.
Yeah, awesome.
So if we just step back a bit and kind of look at big picture, could you maybe pull one main takeaway out of this e-commerce shopper study? And if you can, what would it be?
So, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but I think the one main takeaway is that Amazon is here to play in the space. So,
Right.
their growth over the past year has been substantial in this
Hmm.
category. And with that in mind, I think brands in the category should really be making sure that their presence on Amazon is solid. So,
Hmm.
actually, going back to what you just said a little bit ago, those basics, product images, product descriptions, reviews,
Yeah.
all of those things really matter in helping shoppers make their purchase decision within this space. Um, but however, like having said that, we also know there's still a lot of players in the category. So
Yeah.
yes, Amazon is huge. Amazon is growing. You really do need to make sure your presence on Amazon is solid.
Hmm.
Um, but that's not to say that you should be sort of ignoring other opportunities
Right.
because there's um, such a fragmentation outside of Amazon and Sephora. And
Yeah.
because people choose to shop from so many different potential retailers,
Hmm.
and often direct manufacturer, which is
Right.
huge
Yeah.
for brands,
Yeah.
it really just points to the fact that there's so much opportunity for innovation in this space. And that can be in terms of your offering, it can be in terms of the customer experience online. Um,
Hmm.
and it also means, again, important to segment your customers, important to understand the mindset that they're in, important to understand, what's driving them in this space, what
Right.
is getting them to get to, to go to a specific direct to manufacturer instead of a Sephora or instead of an Amazon. What's really driving everyone everywhere, and how do you segment the market and then
Hmm.
target people that make sense for your brand?
Yeah, those are great call outs. I'm sure it's going to be really interesting to see what the data tells us about how this upcoming holiday season is going to look stats wise after the fact in
Mhm.
this category and on Amazon specifically. Is that something that brands will be able to see in June 2024 when your next e-commerce shopper study comes out?
Yeah, so we will.
Okay.
I honestly, Katie, I love this because it really is head to head between Amazon and Sephora right now.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing. So, yeah, we'll be able to see exactly how this plays out over the next year when we run our shopper or e-commerce shopper study in June 2024. So yeah, we'll be able to track that and see what happens, and stay tuned to see what occurs between this sort of epic fight here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's great. Something to keep an eye out for the summer for sure. Something to look
Mhm.
forward to.
Yes.
We're just about to wrap up, but before we do, let's just check to see if we've received any viewer questions. So there's one on LinkedIn here. Which areas of the retail website and skincare and cosmetic shoppers checking out the most, and what sort of content is most important to them when making the decision to buy?
Yeah, so we do actually look at this information in our e-commerce shopper study.
Okay.
Um, so we know that actually within the space, about 1 in 4 are checking out the sales section.
Okay.
Um, Again, people love a good deal,
Yeah,
and
always.
about about an equal amount are reading product reviews. So those are two of the areas of the site that are capturing a lot of attention in this category. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not dissimilar to a lot of other categories. That's what
Right.
matters to people.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of content, I think it is a lot of those basics and with a combination of reviews. So for
Hmm.
cosmetics and skincare, it is really about sort of like clarity and making sure they know exactly what they're getting when shopping online.
Hmm.
So the content that's said to be most influential on purchase decision is first product details and specs.
Okay.
And that's cited by about 25% of shoppers to be the most influential
Okay.
in terms of content.
Yeah.
And then the front of product image, you want to see what you're getting.
Yeah.
And then that's followed by individual customer reviews and customer review summary. And sort of between the four of those, that captures about sort of, I think it's 85% of shoppers,
Okay.
one of those four things as being the most influential on their purchase decision. So if you can get
Hmm.
your reviews and your product specs and details and your product
Hmm.
images to be really solid,
Yeah.
then 85% of shoppers are basing their decision primarily on at least one of those four sort of areas.
Right. Right. So you're going to be hitting the mark probably.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, customer reviews are really such a powerful aspect of the product page, but I think especially in cosmetics and skincare because people
Mhm.
value other people's experiences with these kinds of products.
Yeah.
But also, of course, critically important that you have accurate product details and specs for a category like this because people
Yeah.
really want to know what they're getting. And a lot of people are also very careful about the kinds of ingredients that are in their personal care products now.
Mhm.
So, that information is what they're looking for.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's so many different um like areas of information within this
Yeah.
space too, because you have
Yeah.
things like, oh, for this skin type, or
Yeah.
to tackle, I don't know, aging, or to tackle
Mhm.
acne, or there's so many different factors that someone could be looking for. And
Yeah.
so having that information readily available is so, so important, because at the end of the day, you're buying something. It's like, is this product right for me? To be able to
Yep.
evaluate that, you need A, all the details of the product and that information. And then B, you want to read reviews of people who you might relate to, or who sort of match your uh, sort of general, I don't know, specs. That sounds weird. As a human,
Goals maybe.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
who are similar to you, so
Yeah.
that okay, then if this product worked for them, it's
Yeah.
likely to work for me. Um,
Right.
so I think that's all really important.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. It's kind of where you see those kind of quizzes come in on different cosmetic and skincare sites where you put in all of your information and they kind of populate products for you on what are your goals and what kind of skin do you have, and these are our products that would be great for you. And I think that that's a great idea for these companies to be executing on, because it allows people to have kind of a focus that they're looking for, because it can be really overwhelming sometimes. You go on these sites and there's just an endless amount of products with all
Mhm.
these different ingredients, and unless you're really into the space and the world, you might not know what you're looking for.
Oh yeah, it can be so overwhelming, particularly for somebody who's not like super duper invested. You have
Yeah.
people who are like next level
Yeah.
knowledgeable about
Yeah.
this space, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
people who aren't. And so trying to make it easy for them,
Yeah.
I think, is such a high priority. And again, leads back to the fact that you have these different segments, you have these different
Hmm.
mindsets, right? Like what that knowledge, like super knowledgeable customer is
Yeah.
looking for is going to be very different from the person who, has needs like skincare needs
Yeah.
or cosmetic needs, but doesn't actually really know a lot about the space.
Right.
So understanding all of your different targets and all of your different segments is just so invaluable in this space.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, Val, we're just about to wrap here, but we always like to end our show with a fun question. So, what is the last cosmetics or skincare product that you bought online for yourself or someone else? And how was your experience purchasing it?
Oh gosh. So, very relevant. I actually just got my last skincare purchase in the mail yesterday.
Okay.
So
Good timing.
yeah, perfect timing. I definitely took advantage of the Sephora savings event
Okay.
myself. I stocked up on a lot of my sort of usual go-to products. I
Right.
needed like my face wash, my vitamin
Hmm.
C serum, my moisturizer, etc.
Yeah.
But I also picked up a few gifts for Christmas.
Okay.
So I got something for my mother-in-law, who can sometimes be difficult to buy for.
Right.
Hopefully she's not watching. I picked something up for my own mom. I picked something up for my
Nice.
sister-in-law. It's so funny because I actually exhibited so many of the stats that we talked
Right.
about here that we
Right.
found in our pulse,
Yeah.
just naturally. But yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier. I think it's such a fun category to shop when you are, taking the time to browse. I definitely do
Yeah.
have sort of go-tos that I go straight to all the
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
Um, but especially during this season, I think that the gift sets are just so good. Like they can get so good and good in so many different ways, right? Like
Yeah.
good in terms of being able to try new things that, it can be really expensive. Like you don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to commit to buying
Yeah.
like a large sort of something like a serum that could be, $100.
Yeah.
You might not want to try that and spend $100 in one shot. But
Yeah. I mean, we all have those products that are, sitting 95% full on our shelf. So,
yes, yes, and you don't want to be spending a ton of money on something that's just gonna sit if it didn't
yeah.
work for you. Um, and so, yeah, the ability to have these sort of like minis and gift sets of
Yeah.
things, I think is so fun, and it's such a good way, I think on both ends, on the brand's end to get
Hmm.
exposure, but even on the consumer end to be able to try something new without a lot of risk.
Right.
So I'd say, I mean, my experience was great. I shopped on Sephora. They really do have a good online experience. I
Yeah.
can't lie. But yeah, it was a successful haul. My bank account took a little bit of a hit, but it was a good purchase.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. Well, thanks so much for a great show, Val. Really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to everyone for tuning into this episode of Point of Purchase Canadian Commerce. If you do have any questions, let us know in the comments and we'll get those answered for you. Val, if anyone has questions for yourself or about the e-commerce shopper study, where can they go find you?
So if anyone wants to reach me directly, you can email me at vfeo@brandspark.com. You can also find us, obviously our website,
Right.
www.brandspark.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. Um, yeah, tons of ways to connect if you are interested in either cosmetics and skincare specifically, or even
Right.
just the rest of the categories that we're talking about in our e-commerce shopper study, or any other support you might need in the research space.
Awesome. Okay. And you can check us out at geekspeakcommerce.com and follow us on social media to see when you can catch our next episode of Point of Purchase. Thank you so much for tuning in and see you next time. And thanks again, Val.
Thanks, Katie. Take care.
Bye.